Bhakti Devi Tulsi Devi ki.
Jai.
Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki.
Jai.
Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki.
Jai.
Samaveta Bhaktivinoda ki.
Jai.
Nitai Gora Premanande.
Hari Hari Bol.
Glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the lotus feet of Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga Srila Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Tirtha Swami Niti Namani Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Shritatmani Shri Guru Karuna Shakti Bhakti Tirtha Iti Namani Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namani Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshakarine Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam Namaskritam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirajit Nastu Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtuki. Continuing in Srimad Bhagavatam, second canto, chapter 3, text number 9. Good morning to all devotees. Hope you're having a wonderful day. I'll chant line by line. We're here in the temple room. So the devotees will be chanting live. What we'll do is the devotees in the temple room will have chant first, and then we'll go to the devotees that are here via Zoom. Rajakama Manum Devan Niritim Tu Abhicharan Yajit Kama Kamo Yajit Somam Akama Purusham Param Rajakamo Manum Devam Niritim Tva Abhicharan Yajit Kama Kamo Yajit Somam Akama Purusham Param Rajakamo Manum Devan Niritim Tva Abhicharan Yajit Kama Kamo Yajit Somam Akama Purusham Param. Please chant. Rajakamo Manum Devan Niritim Tva Abhicharan Yajit Kama Kamo Yajit Somam Akama Purusham Param Rajakamo Manum Devan Niritim Tva Abhicharan Yajit Kama Kamo Yajit Somam Akama Purusham Param. Devotees on Zoom, please chant.
Rajakamo Manum Devan
Rajakamo Manum Devam
Niritim Tva Vicharan Yajet
Niritim Tva Vicharan Yajit
Kama Kamo Yajet Somam
Kama kamo yajit somam.
akama purusham param.
Kama purusham param.
Rajakamo manam devan
Rajakamo manam devam.
nirritim tva abhicharan yajet.
Ritam tva abhicharan yajit.
Kama kamo yajet somam
Kama kamo yajit somam.
akama purusham param.
Akama purusham param.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Rajakamo manundeva
Rajakamo manam devan.
nirritim tva avicharan yajit
Ritim tva abhicharan yajit.
kama kamo yajit somam
Kama kamo yajit somam.
akamaha purusham param.
Akama parusham param.
Hare Krishna. Rajakamo manundevan
Jakamo manam devam.
nirjantintu avicharan yajet
Ritim tva abhicharan yajit.
kama kamo yajet somam
Kama kamo yajit somam.
akama purusham param.
Karama parusham param.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else on Zoom? Shri Prabhu? Rajakamo manam devam. Ritim tva abhicharan yajit. Kama kamo yajit somam. Akama parusham param. Hare Krishna. Do the synonyms. Rajakama. Anyone desiring an empire or kingdom. Manun. The Manus. Semi-incarnations of God. Devan. Demigods. Niritim. Demons. 2. But. Abhicharan. Desiring victory over the enemy. Yajet. Should worship. Kama kamaha. One who desires sense gratification. Yajit. Should worship. Somam. The demigod named Chandra. Akamaha. One who has no material desires to be fulfilled. Purusham. The Supreme Personality of Godhead. Param. The Supreme. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki. One who desires domination over a kingdom or an empire should worship the Manus. One who desires victory over an enemy should worship the demons. And one who desires sense gratification should worship the moon. But one who desires nothing of material enjoyment should worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport. For a liberated person, all the enjoyments listed above are considered to be absolutely useless. Only those who are conditioned by the material modes of external energy are captivated by different types of material enjoyment. In other words, the transcendentalist has no material desires to be fulfilled. whereas the materialist has all types of desires to be fulfilled. The Lord has proclaimed that the materialists who desire material enjoyment and thus seek the favor of different demigods, as above mentioned, are not in control of their senses and so give themselves to nonsense. One should therefore not desire any sort of material enjoyment, being sensible enough to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The leaders of nonsensical persons are still more nonsensical because they preach openly and foolishly that one can worship any form of demigod and get the same result. This sort of preaching is not only against the teachings of Bhagavad Gita or those of Srimad Bhagavatam, but is also foolish, just as it is foolish to claim that with the purchase of any travel ticket, one may reach the same destination. One cannot reach Bombay from Delhi by purchasing a ticket for Baroda. It is clearly defined herein that persons impregnated with different desires have different modes of worship. But one who has no desire for material enjoyment should worship the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead. And this worshiping process is called devotional service. Pure devotional service means service to the Lord without any tinge of material desires, including desires for fruitive activity and empiric speculation. For fulfillment of material desires, one may worship the Supreme Lord, but the results of such worship is different, as will be explained in the next verse. Generally, the Lord does not fulfill anyone's material desires for sense enjoyment, but he awards such benedictions to worshipers of the Lord, for they ultimately come to the point of not desiring material enjoyment. The conclusion is that one must minimize the desires for material enjoyment, and for this, one should worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is described here as Param, or beyond anything material. Sripad Sankaracharya has also stated, Narayanaya Parovyatat. The Supreme Lord is beyond the material encirclement. Om Agena Timbarandasha Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Umalitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance. My spiritual master has opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. The verse once again. One who desires domination over a kingdom or an empire should worship the Manus. One who desires victory over an enemy should worship the demons. And one who desires sense gratification should worship the moon. And listen here to where Srila Prabhupada puts the but. But one who desires nothing of material enjoyment should worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I've once heard this many times, that when a person's talking to you and they say, but, it's like everything before it becomes kind of nullified, because what they really want to tell you is what they're telling you after the but. And when I, saw this,
Yeah, I stopped the share because on our screen, we were just seeing a black screen.
Oh, you did? Okay. You didn't see the,
So I shared the screen and we saw what we needed to see, but your screen for some reason was,
the Let me try this here. How does that work? Is it a black screen or is it?
No, no, now it's better.
Thank you for doing that, Mother Shobharate.
No problem.
So in this case, there's been a long list of ways in which, if we want sense gratification, how to achieve it in this world. But the conclusion is, but if you really want to become free from the influences of material nature, become free from, this temporary suffering, and not make this world your home, you worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and you can become liberated, from this material entanglement. And that is, this last sentence is the crux of this whole section leading up to it. Do all these things, but if you really want the real thing, just worship Krishna. One who desires domination over a kingdom or an empire. I want to look at these. There's a long list going back to the last 8 verses. Let's look at the ones today. One who desires domination over a kingdom or an empire should worship the Manus. This is a big thing for a person to desire. A lot of times people don't walk around desiring, and they want to become like the head of a country or head of the world and, dominate. But there are, and we see that there are, wars going on today, where we have one country trying to dominate another country. We have the Ukraine and Russia war that's ongoing, and that has been ongoing for, many, many years and taken different forms. And many, many lives are lost because one country wants to dominate another country. Usually it comes back to a person within that country wanting to dominate someone. A lot of times it's over rights or claims because of economic development. If you've been following the news, very sadly, I was unaware of it. To be honest with you, I've been oblivious to a lot of the news. My son told me, "Did you see what's happening in Israel?" I said, "What's happening?" So big, people are, killing each other left and right, and there's, big massacres going on. They're really, let me turn on the news, a surprise to see, it's, one day 900 slaughtered, and this is a fight between the Israelis and the Palestinians over a strip of land, each one being able to claim for their own. So there is this domination for a kingdom, now, the fighting is intensified. Hopefully that'll come to an end very soon. But you can see that it's a tragedy, just he shot down this building, this whole building, this high rise just collapsed. It's like everybody inside just dies like that. And like you see it live on the television. So we have these, so we see that in this world, there are people that desire kingdoms, empires. And there's a prescription for it if you really want to become powerful. You have the Hiranyakashipus, you have the Hiranyakshas, you have the Ravanas, and you see that they actually worshipped. They went through a Vedic process to get the power that they wanted. Sometimes our domination over a kingdom or empire is a lot smaller than a worldly empire. Sometimes it's over our own little empires that we create. Domination over our kingdoms, that may be our families, it may be our jobs, it may be our very small possessions we have a claim over. Srila Prabhupada says, even a pauper is proud of his penny. So he has, that's his kingdom, this little penny, and he's very proud of it and protective of it, and he wants to be able to be in control. There's this lady outside of where I worked. I don't think she's not there anymore, but she used to be there every morning as you would enter in. We call her the bag lady, and she was a homeless lady, but she had a shopping cart, and in the shopping cart she was full of bags, And every day she would just take out her bags and she would fold them and stack them up. And that was her kingdom. And she was very proud of it and very protective and wanted to show it off to everybody. So we get consumed over these possessions in this material world. And whether it's a country, whether it's a gold mine or an oil field or a kingdom of people where we want to become recognized, or it's some meager possession like a basket of bags or a few pennies that we have in our pocket. We should be careful not to be proud over our material possessions and want domination over it. This is a material desire. And this material desire, whether it's a penny or whether it's a kingdom, will keep our attachments here, and we'll have to remain in this material world in order to fulfill these desires. What is a penny? What is a piece of gold? To the transcendentalist, one who is liberated, Srila Prabhupada says, all these things are useless. So there's a verse in the Bhagavad Gita. For one who is on the transcendental level, whether we see a pebble or a piece of gold, they see it as the same value. It's just material level. It's just the material nature. The next one who desires victory over one's enemy should worship the demons. So this is something I wanted to spend a little bit of time on, this idea of an enemy. Again, looking into the context, one who has no material desires, all these things are useless. So one who has no material desires, they actually have no enemies. Prahlad Maharaj preaches to his father, Hiranyakashipu, about this. I'm going to put it on the screen here so we can follow along. Prahlad Maharaj continued. This is from the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Prahlad Maharaj continued, "My dear father, please give up your demoniac mentality. Do not discriminate in your heart between enemies and friends. Make your mind equipoised toward everyone. Except for the uncontrollable and misguided mind, there is no enemy within this world. When one sees everyone on the platform of equality, one then comes to the position of worshiping the Lord perfectly." So he's preaching to his father, who's a demon, and the propensity in this world is because we're here and we want to, Srila Prabhupada uses this term, lord it over material nature. We want to have control. And therefore, those that want to help us gain control, again, it could be over a kingdom, it could be over some meager possessions, we consider those people to be our friends. Those that try to challenge our control, we label them as enemies. Those that try to give us gratification, we say those are our friends. Those that try to challenge us, those become our enemies. But for a devotee, they're not interested in any of these material acquisitions. So therefore, they don't see things in terms of friends and enemies. How do they see it? They see things with Pandita Samodarshana. They see with an equal mind. You see this from this famous verse in the Bhagavad Gita.
Vidya vinay sampanne brahmane gavihastini sunuchaiva svapakecha panditan samadarshana.
Very nice, Mother. Thank you so much. That rolled off your tongue just like that. That means you're studying the Bhagavad Gita very nicely. The humble sages, by virtue of true knowledge, see with equal vision a learned and gentle brahmana, a cow, a dog, an elephant, and an outcast, a doggy. So that's how a devotee sees. They don't see things in terms of the material bodies or one's past karma. They don't see, okay, this person gives me pleasure, this person gives me pain. They see that there is a soul that is entangled in this material world, and they're acting according to their own level of sense gratification. And therefore, they may treat me a certain way, and they may be acting in a certain way, but I have to actually rise above it. This is an important point, because as devotees, we don't want to fall into this trap of seeing people in terms of material value. This material value has no endurance for our true spiritual, true spiritual quest of becoming free from the modes of material nature and executing our pure devotion to Lord Krishna. In the 12th chapter, when Krishna, this is the section on devotional service, and Krishna gives an indication of what pleases him. It's of the Bhagavad Gita. One who is not envious, but is a kind friend to all living entities, who does not think himself as a proprietor, who is free from false ego, who is equal in happiness and distress, who is tolerant, always satisfied, self-controlled, and engaged in devotional service with determination, his mind and intelligence fixed on me. Such a devotee of mind is very dear to me. So, relevant to this verse, one who is not envious, but is a kind friend to all living entities. And then also one who doesn't consider himself the proprietor. So that addresses the wanting the kingdom or domination. So Srila Prabhupada speaks some words of wisdom to us in this purport. A devotee, is not envious toward anyone, nor does a devotee become his enemy's enemy. This person, he thinks, this person is acting as my enemy due to his own past misdeeds. So not becoming becoming enemy's enemy. The verse today talks about if you want to conquer your enemy, if you want to overcome your enemy, you worship the demons. So very rarely do you see people say, okay, I'm going to pull out a picture of a demon, Hiranyakashipu, and worship him. But how do people approach if they have this concept of this is my friend, this is my enemy? What people do is you'll see that one will actually see my enemy's enemy actually becomes one's friend. So you develop an alliance, and that's like worshiping a, kind of today's way of worshiping, a demon, or worshiping one's enemy's enemy. You'll say, okay, you're the enemy of that person, so therefore you become my friend. And that is the kind of the politics of this world. And therefore you develop some allegiance or alliance together with the goal of defeating, a common enemy. As a result, the mind becomes corrupted. When we listen to Prahlad Maharaj, he says, really, the only enemy is in the mind, because the mind is accepting and rejecting according to one's sense gratification. This gives me pleasure, this gives me pain. So therefore, the mind is creating these distinctions. So we have to be very careful. If we are not pure in our execution of devotion, which very few of us are, I am not, we're going to find ourselves sometimes falling into these traps of looking as this is a friend, this is an enemy. This person is good, this person is not good. And then we'll try to find some type of retaliation. So Srila Prabhupada continues. Jai Shishi Gaurnitai ki jai, Shishi Jagannath Baladev Subhadra ki jai, Shishi Radhashar Bihari ki jai. This person is acting as my enemy due to my own past deeds. So there may be some person that perceives me as an enemy, but I shouldn't necessarily perceive them as an enemy. It is better to suffer than to protest, coming from Srimad Bhagavatam 10:14-8. Whenever a devotee is in distress or has fallen into difficulty, he thinks that it is the Lord's mercy upon him. He thinks that thanks to my past misdeeds, I should suffer far greater than what I'm suffering now. So it is by the mercy of the Supreme Lord that I am not getting all the punishment I am due. Oftentimes, we create these trivial strifes in life. And when we look back on them, we think that some of these things are actually inconsequential to our eternal situation. But we hold on to them. This person has done this to me. This person has, created such a hard position in my life. In life, when we see things, Shastra Chakshusha, seeing through the eyes of the scriptures, we get information from the Srimad Bhagavatam, from the Bhagavad Gita, from the Acharyas. Don't see things from this level of this is an enemy and this is a friend. See it only through your purification of existence. Due to your own past misdeeds, you're now attracting some result. And due to this result, you can now retaliate and create future karma for yourself. Or you can become detached and accept it, tolerate, and actually try to transform it to a devotional experience. Otherwise, we may go to our death holding on to these resentments, holding on to this anger, fighting, this person is an enemy, this person is my friend. Srila Prabhupada tells a story of the scissors and the knife. I don't know if you remember this, if you've heard of it. But the two people, they were fighting. It started over something very, very simple. They were working together. They were trying to cut a rope. One person says, I have a knife right here, cut it. He says, no, I have a scissor. And they start arguing, scissor or knife. Sometimes we do this, even, it's very common, I remember our Rath Yatras, the first couple of times we would set up and we'd have a whole plan to set up the prasadam distribution, and the tables were set up. And somebody would come and say, no, it has to be like this. No, you move the table like this and like that, and the line should come like this. And you set it up, and the person, no, I don't know what that person was thinking. No, you move it like this and like that, and you come around like this, and then another person. So sometimes there's just always these opinions. But in the end, does it really matter? Maybe one way is a little bit better than the other way, screwing in a light bulb, you should hold the ladder like, no, get down, move the ladder around this way, hold it like this. No, first take the light bulb up and then you come down. The other person has a light bulb in their pocket. This is sometimes you just get carried away with these little attachments, Table should be here, no table should be there. And we get so it's something that ignites within us. We become infuriated. And we lose our minds. And the mind starts developing. This is an enemy. This is a friend. So in this case, this is what happened. A knife would have done it. A scissor would have done it. But the guy with the scissors was attached. The guy with the knife was attached. They start fighting with each other. Scissors, knife, scissors, knife, scissors, knife. Starts becoming a shouting match. And then finally, the guy with the knife tells the guy with the scissors, if you don't put down your scissors, I'm going to throw you in the river. They must have been by a body of water. He says, do it. And he says, okay, I'll do it then. He throws him in the river. Then they start fighting in the river. And then the guy with the knife starts pushing him underwater. Guy comes up for air. Scissors. Boom. Pushes him down again. Knife. Scissors. Knife. Next thing you know, the guy's knife was bigger. He pushes him under the water. Now he's going to drown them. He's going to kill the guy over a simple fight. And we see this sometimes. People kill each other over silly things. Cut me off. You don't even know the person, but he cut me off while I was driving down the highway. So now he's going to try to cut you off and put your life at risk. Sometimes you'd hear of stories where a person would pull out a gun and shoot you. Road rage. So as the person's going down, takes up his last breath, scissors, pushes him down, sticks his hand up, instead of surrendering and saying, okay, it's really not that big of a deal. He goes to his last breath and he's coming down, his arms coming down. The last motion that he makes is this. Dead. So we stick to our positions and we fight to our dying death. We have to become very careful and just see how Prahlad Maharaj, as he teaches us, this enemy of the mind, if we can overcome it, and we see things through the eyes of the scriptures, and the eyes of the scriptures are what? They're the eyes of Krishna. These are the words of the Lord. We can actually see things as they are, and we can develop what? Samo darshana, a mind of peace and tranquility. Next point I want to make here, with regards to the demigods. This is made in the purport, that we need to remember that the demigods are subordinate to the Supreme Lord. This is not a thing that I think devotees struggle with so much, but I was surprised. We visited this devotee from New Jersey, and I actually knew this devotee, and that's why it was so surprising to me. He came one time to Philadelphia right before our Rath Yatra, and he was visiting with his family. And I said, "Are you going to come this week to Rath Yatra?" And he said, "Yeah." He says, "We're actually, no, there's this Ganesh festival." And he says, "I think my family wants to go to the Ganesh festival, so I'm not sure if we're going to come, but maybe we'll come, we'll see what happens." I thought in my mind, this is a devotee, he's an initiated devotee. And he's saying, they're going to choose the Ganesh festival over Rath Yatra. And I thought, wow, like these upadis or impressions of our material, culture sometimes really leave these lasting impressions upon us. Coming from the West, we haven't heard so much of demigod worship. Due to Christianity, demigod worship in throughout Europe, and then when Europe, conquered America and brought Christianity to America, you had this monotheistic culture. So for the last 2,000 years or such, through the development of Europe and then the Americas, this idea of demigod worship really isn't prevalent. But from the West, you can understand that throughout your life, you're being understanding, okay, there's these different pujas and yagyas, and different fasts that one has to do. There's an attachment to this. And one can sometimes forget that, the goal of life is to satisfy Krishna. So I want to read these verses from the 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, just to reinforce where this idea that Krishna as the Supreme Lord comes from, and why we need to follow this principle so much. This is from text number 21. I am in everyone's heart as the super soul. As soon as one desires to worship some demigod, I make his faith steady so that he can devote himself to that particular deity. Actually, let me go back to the previous verse, text number 20. Those whose intelligence have been stolen by material desires surrender unto the demigods and follow that particular rules and regulations of worship according to their own natures. So this is consistent with what the Srimad Bhagavatam, these last verses are. If you have material desires, you worship the demigods. And this is how Krishna is showing that he's actually in control of the whole process. I am in everyone's heart as the super soul. And if as soon as one desires to worship some demigod, I make his faith steady so that he can devote himself to that particular deity. So Krishna makes it possible to worship a demigod and actually makes one's faith strong. Endowed with such faith, he endeavors to worship a particular demigod and obtains his desires. But in actuality, these benefits are bestowed by me alone. So Krishna is actually the one who's giving the power to the demigods for them bestowing benedictions. So all these things that one is actually getting are actually coming from the Supreme Lord Krishna. The example is given. If one goes to a well and acquires water, that is like going to a demigod. Or you can go to a reservoir where there's an abundance or unlimited quantity of water, and you can get the same water. And that is compared to Krishna. But who is supplying that well? Who is supplying that well? There's a whole underground body of water that's actually supplying that well. Who is that body of water? That is Krishna. So whether you go to an individual well, you go to the body of water, it's ultimately being supplied by the body of water. So Krishna is saying it's ultimately being supplied by me. Therefore, men of small intelligence worship the demigods, and their fruits are limited and temporary. But those who worship the demigods go to the planets of the demigods. But my devotees ultimately reach my supreme.
5 minutes, yeah.
Breakfast ready.
If one you can put yourself on mute.
Baba, you want to eat?
To make toast for him today. Toast.
Mother Golokananda Priya.
Okay. This is like 45 minutes. 45.
Mother Golokananda Priya, can you put yourself on mute? Thank you.
You want to sit down and eat?
Yeah.
Eat.
Let me see if I can do it real quick. Sorry about that. Hare Krishna. So we should remind ourselves about this. And when we're preaching to people that maybe have attachment to demigods, we can inform them, we can enlighten them that Krishna's supreme position and that everything that you're desiring can actually become fulfilled through transforming one's life into the life of Krishna consciousness. That is our duty as preachers of the Krishna consciousness movement. And we encounter these obstructions. We have to educate people who are not in knowledge of this principle. Lastly, Srila Prabhupada brings up in the purport the idea of different types of devotion. There is pure devotion, which is the nature of the soul. But then there is when one is not pure in one's devotion, it's contaminated by different elements. And those elements are divided into two categories. It was mentioned in this purport. One is fruitive activity, and the other is empiric knowledge or mental speculation. So there's pure bhakti, kevala or ananda bhakti, which is pure, Srila Prabhupada says, unalloyed. So it has no alloys in it, no contaminations, no traces of impurities in it. But then there is what's called Mishra Bhakti. So there's Karma Mishra Bhakti. So that is bhakti or devotion. We're trying to do devotional service, but yet it is still mixed with material desires for gaining some type of material sense enjoyment. Then there is, when it's mixed with one's desire for mental speculation, it's called Jnana Mishra Bhakti. And oftentimes this is the platform we can find ourselves in one of these stages. Our desire should always be, and we should always know what the goal is. And Srila Prabhupada always speaks about the goal in his purports. So you always see Srila Prabhupada keeps a very high standard when he speaks about devotional service. And it's always saying like pure devotees, liberated stage. Why? Because that is where we're to be, that's where we're to come to. Should the desire to become a pure devotee be there? Absolutely. Because the soul is pure by nature. It's just that we have come into this place and developed these impurities due to our desires to lord over material nature, to want to be the center. So these impurities have come. But we should go through the purification process to strain out all these impurities that are there. So to become pure should be there as a goal. And through the process, one will actually attain that. But we have to become aware that we're not pure and that we have these impurities. And take a look at our lives. And we should, as the verse 2 weeks ago said, we're growing this garden. And we should be very careful as we are gardeners of our devotional creepers to be able to cultivate an environment of pure devotion in our lives. And to do that, we need to honestly look at our lives and see when we have these weeds of impurities come up, these karmic desires that mix our devotion with impurities, or these desires to want to speculate or let our mind dictate Krishna's supreme position. When they come up, we have to identify it. One beneficial way to do it is to write it down. When it comes up, write it down and say, you know what, I'm going to work on this. This is here, it's present, it came up. Mentally, just to identify it is good. Some people can't even identify it. You need some people need people to tell them, okay, Prabhu, you're going off a little bit here. Prabhu, don't you see you're kind of going off track. But we have to become very serious about this. The process will work, but we also have to tend to our gardens. And if we use the process of hearing and chanting at the same time by pulling those weeds out, we will see these impurities gradually come out of our lives. These desires to want material sense gratification, dominance over somebody, seeing people as friends and enemies, this side, that side, this is good, this is bad. These things will start to come out, move through our lives, but we need to uproot them. They won't go away naturally. In the same way, in a garden, when it rains, yes, the devotional creeper will grow, but the weeds will also grow very naturally. So we have to take to this active process of Krishna consciousness and begin to pull these weeds out. I'll stop here, see if there's any realizations, questions or comments. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Mahaprabhu Vishnu. That's a good question. I'll repeat it real quick from Murlidhar Keshava Prabhu here in the temple, is that if we see somebody going off track and we see their material desires are manifesting and we want to help them out, how do we address it with somebody? Because sometimes they won't receive it very well. Sometimes we're not in a position to have that relationship with a person. So if one is a friend of a person and one's relationship is open, one can speak honestly with the person, and a person will oftentimes take it, if not at first, they'll take it eventually, that actually this is a friend and this person was really looking out for me. So there may be some resistance at first. But if one doesn't have the relationship of friendship, then it could be very difficult because the person may actually reject it. So a person may be a senior to you, or they may just be, there may not be a relationship there. So one can bring it to the issue to somebody who has we use this term authority, but somebody who has some influence over that particular person. And that's oftentimes proper to do. Say, I'm noticing these qualities in this person. They don't seem to be, manifesting very good. I'm really concerned for the person. How do we help them? I don't think I'm in a position to help them. I don't think that person will listen to me. What should we do? And then just by doing that, we can offer a prayer to Lord Krishna. And Krishna sees, okay, 1, I sincerely want to help this person. 2, I don't think I'm qualified to help this person. And 3, I'm looking for a solution to help this person. Krishna will start making the arrangement for that to happen. You have a sincere concern, and you're offering up, I know I'm not the solution, but I want to find a solution. And that is much better than, seeing it on the opposite side, which is this person's a bad person, this is a person enemy, let's try to tear this person down. So then sometimes it has to, so that's the proper way to do it, is that if you have the influence of that person, you sit down and you address it. We also can't be attached to the results, because sometimes that person may not always receive it so well. But you also see, this is my duty to Krishna, this is my service to Krishna, to try to help them. And if you do that, Krishna will help you. Again, he will make the arrangement eventually for that to be manifested. So we have to find out a person who does have influence, and then and if that is us, then we should act in that way. Is that okay for you? Okay. Anybody online would like to share?
Just want to say, beautiful session. It was so wonderful. You expressed it so well. And thank you so much for Hare Krishna. That's all I want to say.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Mother Sita, Hare Krishna. You have your hand up. If you're speaking, you're muted. Okay. I guess.
Can you hear me?
There you are. Now
Hello?
you're speaking. Hare Krishna.
Sorry. My phone and my computer is playing tricks on me. But anyway, my question is, if you have any suggestions on how can we work on ourselves on weeding out our these weeds in our or the anarthas that we carry with us.
Mm-hmm. Well, we have to identify it, and if we can't identify it, then we need people around us to help us identify it. So if we can identify it ourselves, first thing to do, as I always felt helpful, is to write it down, because by writing something down, it makes it real. S.B. Keshava Maharaj, who was here, he would talk about his journals and that he would journal. And then he said, don't think you're going to have access to those journals because they're under password. So what I took from that is it's very personal. He really opened up his heart that, there may have been struggles, there may have been doubts. This was him revealing himself to Krishna. So we have to write that. By writing it down, it solidifies the idea. And then we can also go back and look at it and see it as a point of reference. Last week, I had this. Was I able to improve upon that, or is that still here? Srila Prabhupada said that nothing is, what was it? Mother Sangeeta tells me, nothing is, real until it's written down, or nothing is like permanent until it's written down. So when we write something down, it becomes concrete almost. We can't deny it. It's there. There's a proof. There's a record of it. And so if we're serious about it, we can write it down. We don't have to take 2 hours out of our day to do it. It can just be a note. It can be a jot down. Sometimes we put it, even if you write it in your notepad in your phone. I like to write it on a piece of paper because it's actual transference. I'm used to that, but it's the same idea. You're transferring it out of your mind and into and then we have to continue, just like we'd be in a garden. We actually physically have to pull that weed. We actually have to physically envision ourselves saying, okay, these things happen to me. I realize they're happening to me. The next time it happens, I have to pause and I have to catch myself. And I have to envision myself actually pulling this weed out of the ground. And it may come up again and I may not be successful, but I'm going to be diligent and relentless in trying to do this. And once we're successful at doing one of these, we'll feel encouraged to do it again. And then we'll feel this sense of relief, just like a plant would feel the relief from the strangulation of the weeds underground that have taken root against the root of the devotional creeper. It's no longer suffocating the devotional creeper. It's actually releasing it, from the struggle of competition for one's nourishment. We'll see that. So that would be my recommendation. Start with one material desire that one has. Write it down. Work on it. And as it begins to slowly go down, when you pull that weed out, then you'll start feeling the nourishment. And then you say, okay, let me do another. And if you get to the point where you're saying, I'm looking at my garden, I see nothing but beautiful flowers. You can actually, talk to a friend, talk to a devotee and says, I'm really serious about this process of Krishna consciousness, and I need you to help me because I want to be able to, I can't identify some of these desires that I have, but I know that they must be there because when I chant, I'm not chanting the pure name. I don't feel like I have, spontaneous attraction to Krishna. So there must be some material desires in my life. Can you please help me identify them? Can you work together? So this is confidence. This is Rupa Goswami when he says, inquiring confidentially and revealing one's mind in confidence. So this can be done as another practice to help us. Does that help?
Yes, very much. Thank you very much.
Do you have anything to add? Any ideas?
No, I really like the idea of writing down and working on it. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Okay, we'll end here. I want to put a plug in real quick for the Harinam party. I've been out there a couple of days and it has been absolutely fabulous. I encourage everybody to come out at least once, and then once you've been out there once, you'll go out there again. Today we'll be at Love Park, which is right there across from City Hall. It's at 15th and JFK Boulevard. From 11 o'clock to 2 o'clock, chanting the holy names of the Lord. And you can just see the expressions on people's faces when they're walking by and they see the holy name. They're going to work, they're going shopping, they're talking to their girlfriend or boyfriend, or whatever it may be. And all of a sudden they hit this wave of the holy name of Krishna's mercy. And they feel such a relief and just a blissful feeling. I ask you to please be a part of it. Join the Harinam. They're there today. They'll be there tomorrow. 6 days a week. These devotees are going out. Murari Gupta Prabhu, Mother Sakti, Mahaprabhu Prabhu, as well as their team members. So please help build on this wonderful experience of Harinam Sankirtan here in Philadelphia. Again, today, 11 o'clock to 2 o'clock at Love Park. Hare Krishna. Panchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhuvya
Patitanam Pavrebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Hare Krishna.
Srila
Thank you.
Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Prabhupada Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Thank you very much, Prabhu.